conversation begins with the topic of discussion. Marriage wasn't created to make you happy. You heard me. Marriage wasn't created to make you happy. You know how we tell our children, do as I say, but don't do as I do? But those little rascals, they do both. They go do what we said and they do what we do because they are a chip off the old block. I mean, when you think about it, we as parents, we are a great influence on our children. Our marriages are our children's living testimony. It's a witness to them of what a marriage should or shouldn't look like. And so when you think about it, your marriage should be the image of what they desire to find in their spouse. Yeah. You see, we live in this generation where we have tags for each generation. We're called the baby boomers. And so that means your children are more than likely millennials or Gen X or Gen Y or Gen Zs. And they're just the younger group coming down the pike. Let me just show you right quick what God thinks about marriage, because since he created the institution, let me just tell you what he thinks. So go with me to the book of Mark, chapter 10, verse 6 through 9. Let's see what God has to say about marriage. This is the NIV version. I'm going to read the same chapter, if you will, but I'm going to read it in the Message Bible in just a few seconds here. But follow me. Verse 6 says it like this. This is Mark chapter 10, verse 6 through 9. 6 says it like this. But at the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. Verse 7. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife. Verse 8. And the two will become one flesh. So they're no longer two, but they are one. Isn't that something? Verse 9, therefore what God has joined together, let no one, not your mama, let no one, not your daddy, let no one, not your children, let no one, not your friends, separate. That's what God says. Let no one separate you. Now let me read the version out of the Message Bible. Mark chapter 10, verse 6 through 9. In the original creation, God made male and female to be together. Because of this, a man leaves father and mother, and in marriage he becomes one flesh with a woman. No longer two individuals, but forming a new unity, because God created this organic union of two sexes. No one should desecrate his art by cutting them apart. Did you hear that? Let me read that again. No one should desecrate his art, God's art, by cutting them apart. The scripture tells us that marriage is an intimate and complementing union between a man and a woman, in which the two become one. Yeah, the two become one. Now, marriage is a covenant, if you will, between two people. It's a legal binding agreement. Do you realize that the very first wedding, the very first wedding can be found in Genesis chapter 2. But the very first wedding was not done by man or woman. It was done by God. The very first wedding. I mean, God orchestrated the whole thing. He planned it and he officiated the whole service. And of course, we know it's Adam and Eve. I'll say it again. God created the institution of marriage, not men. Stay with me. So this story finds us in the book of Genesis chapter 2. Where brother Adam is having a moment, and God is looking in on him, and God says, Adam looks to be alone. He says, I'm going to have to fix that. Now, Adam is probably like your son or daughter when, you catch them just looking in the mist, just kind of, you're just in deep thought and you're looking away and you're thinking about something and your parent asks you a question, what's going on? What are you thinking about? And they said, I'm not thinking about nothing. And they're really not. They just caught up into a moment of just simply something don't feel right. Something just don't quite, feel good. And so they don't know what it is, but something don't quite feel right. And all they can say is, I wasn't thinking of nothing. And so that's where Adam is. Adam found himself alone. And God says, something's not right about that. God has said everything that he's created is good. This is the first time that God said that something is not good. He says it's not good for man to be alone. So God said, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to take care of that. So we know that Adam was working because Adam had two jobs. Adam is a man. You want to marry Adam. Adam has two jobs. Adam is working in the garden, taking care of it, cultivating it, keeping it. And then he's also naming all of the animals. So God says, finish doing what you're doing, and then I'm going to take care of that loneliness that you have. You need to find a man. Man, you need to be a man who has a job. When you're trying to take on a bride, that's a responsibility. Do you have the broad shoulders to handle that responsibility? Because you need to be able to. Adam had 2 jobs. He was ready to handle his responsibility. How many jobs do you have? Do you have a job? If you don't have a job, if you don't have substance, if you don't have a house or car, if you don't have something for this girl before you hitch up with her, why are you messing with her? She needs you to have something for her, with her. Come on. You can't just go and come and try to marry somebody's daughter and you don't have anything to bring to the table. Have yourself a job. Yeah, I know you might not be all there yet, but have something. Have a checking account. Yeah, have a savings account. And I don't mean just have one open. I mean have something in it, something of substance that can support you and your family. Because as soon as you marry her, things start happening real quick. Yeah, things start happening. So God puts Adam to sleep, the Bible tells us. And I think the word sleep in this particular statement, if you will, I think it's a metaphor for love, for deep love, for a serious kind of love. God puts Adam to sleep. When Adam wakes up, he wakes up and says, whoa. He looks and sees this woman. Let me tell you what Adam does. Adam sees Eve, and he saw a version of himself, outside of himself, that pleased himself. Did you hear what I just said? When Adam saw Eve, he saw a version of himself that's outside of himself that pleased himself. When he saw Eve, yes, Adam was, as they say, he was in love at first sight. That's what love would do to you. Love will put you in a hypnotic state. It'll put you into what I call a deep sleep, if you will. That's what it does to all of us. Yeah. I mean, the power of love is intoxicating. It's a stimulant. I mean, it puts a smile, it puts excitement inside of you. That's what that real love does to you. We were all born to be with someone. We were all born to have someone to compliment us. Yeah, someone who can cover our loneliness. As we think about it, we're all engaged, we're all embracing the ceremony. Yeah, the preparation, if you will, before the marriage. The bride is just so entrusted into all the activities that go along with the wedding. And so the ceremony becomes a big thing. I mean, it's what every bride has dreamed about, fantasized about. The event itself, where will we have the event? Then she's thinking about the wedding, her wedding gown, her bridesmaid. I mean, she's thinking about the whole thing, the photographer, the DJ, the videographer. She's thinking about the venue that we will have the wedding at, the reception, the food, the cake, the rings, everything. She's thinking of all of it. She's planned it all over the years. And so the happiness, all the joy, the excitement is all built into the preparation. That's where the joy is. That's where the happiness is. And so when you get to the marriage, let's be for real. It's kind of a formality. After the honeymoon, that's when the marriage begins. But before it's where all the excitement is. And I call that the icing on the cake. The ceremony, the matrimony, it's the icing on the cake. It's where all that stuff is going on, is all the excitement. When you have some icing on the cake and when you taste it, it's got that old sweet taste to it, and that's getting you ready for the cake itself. So the icing on the cake is the ceremony. It's the matrimony. The marriage, yes. After that, the marriage, after the wedding, the marriage kicks in, and that's the cake. That's what you have to live through. That's what you have to live with. And so when you look at the word matrimony, it derives from the old French word matrimony, and from the Latin word matrimonium, which combines the two concepts, if you will, matter meaning mother and the suffix ammonium signifying action, state, or condition. What it's really saying is the fun is in the preparation for the wedding. And up to the wedding, let's be for real, that's the icing on the cake. But the cake is the marriage. That's what you're taking home with you. You're not taking all that stuff you did. You're taking that stuff that's a part of the action. Yes, a part of the condition that I said I do. Now here's the condition of I'm saying that I do. Yeah. Now the fun begins if you make it fun. It's up to you. But you got to realize that you married a stranger in some sense. You don't know him like you are going to get to know him. And you don't know her like you're going to get to know her. But that's where the fun begins, the intrigue of learning one another. Don't go into this marriage looking for your husband, looking for your wife to make you happy. They can't do that. They don't have that kind of power. You have to bring happiness into the marriage. You have to make you happy. Yeah, no one can make you happy. Only you can do that. If you think marriage is going to, your spouse is going to make you happy, then you're dead wrong. Yeah, he or she is busy trying to make themselves happy. Yeah, think about it. That's way too much pressure. That's way too much responsibility to place on anyone. I mean, that's in what I call an unrealistic expectation that no human can satisfy. There are way too many issues packed into that statement. So let me tell you, what can make you happy is to fulfill your purpose before marriage. Yes, and in marriage. So we've been asking this question for some time. Father, what is my purpose in life? And so if you look at the book of Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 and 25, God is telling you, he's sharing with you what your purpose is. But watch this. He's talking to married folks. Yeah, he's not talking to wannabes. God is talking to married folks. He's not talking to you single folks now. I mean, if you want to get married, I understand, work on this one. But right now, he's talking directly to married folks. And in Ephesians 5, verse 22, the Lord is telling us that our purpose is to love and to submit. Yeah, wives and husband. Yeah, not women and men. Wives and husband. He makes it very clear. You realize the word love is an intense feeling of deep affection. Love is the most powerful emotion that you can ever have. A husband, God says specifically, a husband. He didn't say a man. Make this very clear. He said a husband. We're all commanded, if you will, to love our wives, not women, because that's easy. No, we're commanded to love our wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Now, that's a special kind of love. Because we can love our cars, we can love our hobbies, but when God tells you to love your wife as he loved the church, that's powerful. He's telling you there's a difference here. I put love in you, but there's a difference for this kind of love. This kind of love is a special kind of love that I have for wives and husbands only. And then he tells the wives to submit. The word submit is to accept or yield to a superior force or to the authority or will of another person. It means to give and yield. You see, God is so good. I mean, God is teaching us that if we can love and we can submit, what a special union. We get so trapped up into the words, though. God had to tell men to love. Well, no, hold up. No, God didn't have to tell you anything. God is saying to wives and husbands, if you want to have a successful marriage, men, love her as I love the church. And women, submit to him as you're submitting unto me. Do you get it? God is showing you that when you submit, you're loving him. When he loves you, he's submitting unto you. Did you get that? God says, I got something special for wives and husbands. Not women and men. I mean, you got to get over here on this wife and husband side. But God says, I got some commandments for you. And if you achieve these commandments, guess what? You're going to have a blessed life. You know what kind of special relationship you have with God when you can commit, when you can obey his commandments? How powerful is that? How powerful is that? I love my husband is what women would say. I love my husband. And of course I submit to him. Well, hold up. You love him, but you're holding back on him. You're not giving him all of you because you're running around with all these cheerleaders, all these women who are in your ear telling you what you shouldn't do and what they're not doing. Well, okay, then you have the same type of relationship they have with their spouse as well. Same thing with the husband. You're not giving her all of you. You're just giving her a piece of you, like you're saving some. No, give her all of you. It's called obedience to God. That's what it's called. It's not obedience to her, but it's obedience to her because God said give her. But it's obedience to God, what God has told you, what he's commanded you to achieve. Both husband and wife. Yeah. See, those who obey God, I'm telling you, it's a very special relationship with your spouse, but also with God. I mean, so the question continues to come up. Why aren't you happy? Is it possible because of your disobedience to the Lord? Is it possible? That's why so many people are divorced when you think about it, because they are disobedient. Yeah, they're in a marriage and they want happiness, but guess what? But they don't want to go and fully commit to what God is asking them to do. And that's you and I as well. If you commit to what God is asking, guess what? You have happiness because you bring happiness into the union. But if you're going into the union looking for happiness, you won't find it. Not with your disobedience. You won't find it. If marriage could make you happy, we wouldn't have a 50% divorce rate. Think about that for a moment. People are not divorcing because they fall out of love. They're divorcing because you can't make me happy anymore. Yeah, the cars, the houses, the boats. Yeah, all the shopping, the money. That's not happiness. You figured out that's not happiness. That's stuff. Yeah, happiness comes from within inside of you. Yeah, what have you done that you can't really get yourself cleaned up inside of you? Or what's in the way? What's blocking it? That's what you've got to research and find out. Yeah, that's why God commands us to love and to submit. It's the recipe for success in our marriages. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the recipe for success in our marriages. Yeah, marriage wasn't created to make you happy. No. The key word in that phrase is make. Marriage wasn't created to make you happy. It can't make you happy. You have to find happiness within your marriage. You have to become happy. You have to have happy. Yeah, you have to be happy. You have to bring happy to this union. It doesn't just grow up in the union because all of a sudden your husband done something to make you be happy. No, 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 no. That's just happy for a day. I'm talking about happy for a lifetime. You have to bring it in with you. Yeah, it's not about someone making you happy. It's about loving you through the season of your unhappiness until you begin to love yourself into happiness. That's what it's about. Yeah, I tell you, most of us have unreasonable expectations for our spouse. We bring our mama issues into the marriage. We bring our daddy issues into the marriage. And then we expect someone to fix those for us. You got to be kidding me. Yeah, you got to be kidding me. I mean, you bring all that brokenness into this marriage and you start your marriage off. You start the beginning off with brokenness. Don't do that. Don't do that. No, no. Get help. I mean, get that stuff out of you before you say I do to anyone. And watch this. Before you say you do, while you're dating that rascal, while you're dating that young lady, I mean, it's your job to observe them. Yes, to observe them. Don't become so over smitten with them that you're not listening to them. Listen to them. Yeah. Quit being over smitten. Make sure you take some time to listen to what they're saying. Mhm. Because when they start talking, do they talk about what happened to them? Is he talking about what happened to him more than he's talking about what happened through him? There's a difference. Is she talking about what happened to her versus what happened through her? You see, if they're talking about what happened to them, they're worrying it. They're still worrying the past issues that they got out of or that they were into. You don't want that. You want somebody who's talking about what happened through them. It means that they had some issues. They have a past, but guess what? They stepped out of it. They walked out of it. They moved away from it. They got delivered from it. That's what you want. Yeah, you want someone who's had a past, because we all do. But I don't want someone who's still living in that pain. You don't want someone who's still living as if they're damaged. Yeah, someone who's always a victim. Someone who's just watch this, I was just an innocent bystander. Yeah, right. It takes two to tango. You weren't innocent. You were in it, and you're still worrying it. You don't want that individual. No, you want someone who went through it. Yeah, it happened through me. Yeah, it happened to me, but it happened through me because I've been removed from it. Yes, observe and obey the warning signs. If you marry someone who still is living in what happened to them moments, you're going to allow them to steal your joy. They're going to steal your happiness. Yeah, they're going to steal your strength. They're going to steal your hope. They're going to steal the fight within you. That's what they're going to do. They're going to rob you of all the energy you have. They're going to suck the life out of you because they're still hurting. And every time they look at you, guess what they see? They see that you're part of what happened to them. And you weren't even involved in their past, but that's what they see. They connect with that. So my thing is, yeah, be careful. Be careful dating someone, getting married to someone who can't get rid of what happened to them. Yeah, you want to meet someone who had things happen through them, and watch this, and they've overcome. That's what you want to do. Marriage was created to cover our loneliness. Yeah, you know the phrase, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Well, guess what? Having a spouse in your life, having a wife, having a husband in your life, you're not going to have an idle mind. They got things for you to do. And for us men, we know it's called honeydew. So there's a lot to do when you get married that keeps you from being idle. I love it. We don't need to be idled. But before marriage, please listen to me. Before marriage, therapy is recommended before marriage and required, if you ask me. You need a cleansing. Yes, you do. You need a dose of reality. You need to be able to understand and deal with the unadulterated truth about yourself. That's what you need. So before you bring all your baggage to someone else, please take some time to park and to get the help that you need. Because when you look at it, your life and your fiance's life, it's like a sheet of paper full of holes. Both of you full of holes, full of issues in life. That's what these holes are. All these holes inside of you. It's like buckshots hit you. And you got holes internally and holes externally. And you bring these issues to the table. You bring these issues to the marriage if you're not delivered from them. And so when you get into the marriage, guess what? You're hoping that your spouse will fix you. They can't fix you. So you bring anger into the relationship. Boom, a hole. You bring hate into the relationship. Boom, a hole. You bring envy into the relationship. Boom, a hole. You bring pain. You bring sorrow. You bring frustration. You bring doubt. Watch this. You bring low self-esteem. I mean, you bring all these trust issues into the marriage. You bring suicidal thoughts. You bring in depression. You bring in lack. I mean, let's be for real. You bring all that stuff into the marriage, hoping, you're praying that this guy, that this young lady can fix you from all the stuff you just brought into the marriage. I mean, I don't know about you, but who wants that job? Who needs that job? Well, before you get hitched up, you better do your investigation. I mean, I'm serious. You better check this stuff out, because once you get in it, you're in it. I mean, there's not a man in the world, there's not a man on the face of the earth who can rescue you from all those issues. Not one. You see, I told you, you've been plugging up all those holes. Yeah, all those issues in your life with cars and houses and jewelry and sex and just stuff. With more women, with money. That's what you've been doing. You've been plugging up all that stuff versus going to a place and getting your healing. You see, it takes you giving your life to Jesus Christ that allows him to rescue you by covering up, by plugging up all those holes inside of you and on the outside of you. Sister Sarah had holes inside of her. She was barren. She couldn't have a baby. And so then she made more holes by giving her handmaiden to her husband, Abraham. What kind of mess is that? Now she's got a bigger hole. Joseph's brothers had a hole inside of them, a hole called jealousy and envy. They were so jealous of Joseph that they sold him into slavery. That's a hole. Cain was so jealous of the relationship that God had with his brother Abel that he killed him because he didn't have that favorable relationship. We all have holes inside of us. All of us. I pray that you realize that the best way to get rid of all those holes, to really help yourself out, to help your marriage out, is to take communion, if you will. Let me use this for an example. The communion is a representation of the body of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And so when you take communion, the first thing is preparation. It's forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself and everyone around you. Anyone you harm, you have to forgive them. You cannot take communion with any type of animosity, issues in your heart. You have to let it all go. So the first thing about really plugging up holes in your life is communion. It's about preparation. It's about being delivered from all the things that's inside of you. And then when you look at the cracker or the wafer that you're going to eat, we recognize it as the body of Jesus Christ. It's the body that was torn, that was bruised, that was battered for you, that was pierced in his side for you. This body that Jesus walked this earth with is a body that when we take communion, we take a cracker wafer in remembrance of Jesus, in representation of Jesus, and we break it as his body. And then we eat it. We eat it, and his body goes down inside of us. Holy Ghost, thank you, Jesus. His body goes down inside of us, and as it's going down inside of us, it's plugging the holes up inside of us. That's what it's doing. It's plugging up the holes inside of us. That's what the body is doing, because you've asked for forgiveness, and you want to be better. You want to do better, and so the body and representation is going down on the inside of you, and it's plugging up all that hate and envy and strife and malice. It's going in and it's plugging up doubt. Yes, it's plugging up all that stuff inside of you that's kept you in the dump for years. And then you drink his blood. You take a glass of wine or a glass of juice, whatever it is, water, whatever it is, and you drink it in remembrance of his blood that he shed for you. He was shedding blood from birth all the way to Calvary. Yeah, it wasn't just at Calvary. It didn't start there. It started at birth. To come down from heaven, to step into this fleshly body, Jesus was bleeding from day one, all the way to Calvary. And so he shed his blood. And so when you drink of this cup of this juice or whatever it's going to be, wine, when you drink of it, you're drinking his blood in representation of what he did for all of us. He shed his blood for all of us. Yes, there's no power stronger than the blood of the Lamb. And so when you drink it, the blood goes in and it goes in and it helps reinforce the plugs of the body. It's like super glue going inside and really gluing you up on the inside. It's really reinforcing you on the inside because of this communion you've taken. Because you freely come and you freely lay down all of your issues in front of God, and he's forgiving you. That's what a communion is. It's you giving God to you. Yeah, it's you getting out the way and then God come through and be the rescue of your soul. I pray that you understand. What makes you happy is when you forgive yourself. Yes, that's what can make you happy, when you forgive yourself. Yes, marriage wasn't created to make you happy. Marriage was created to make you married. That's what it was. It does its job. And to get you ready for the wedding of all weddings to come, the union between God and his creation. That's what marriage is. Yeah. Our wedding, our vows, our matrimony is found in, guess what? Romans 10:9. That's right. If thou shalt confess with thy mouth that Jesus is Lord, and if thou shalt believe in thy heart that God has raised him from the dead, then guess what? You too shall be saved. You see, what it's saying is, you're saying, I do. Yes. If you shall confess with your mouth, you're saying, I do, Lord. I do prepare myself to be hitched to the bridegroom to come. That's what you're saying. And you're saying it's a matter of the heart. Now I confess with my mouth. I confess with my mouth and I believe in my heart. I believe it in my heart with all my heart. All my heart belongs to you. So it's not just saying some words so your mama and them think you saved. No. It's a belief. See, that's what genuine love, that's what genuine happiness looks like. I pray that you be blessed. I pray that you realize that, yeah, marriage wasn't created to make you happy. It was created to make you married. You be blessed.